Hey there, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Show, where we bring you badasses from all over the world who will help you boost your business, boost your confidence, and share your gifts with the world. I'm Dr. Barnsley Brown, your host, and you all today, I am super excited to have in the house Drew Sutton, who I had the pleasure of hearing speak, and I was so impressed by his very innovative take on leadership that I wanted to invite him on the show. And you all, Drew loves working with driven professionals who are scaling their businesses from 3 million up to about 10 million. Is that right, Drew?
That's it. Yep.
There you go. So welcome to the show, Drew. We're really happy you're here.
Yeah, thanks. I got to, Dr. Barnsley, it's so much fun to be on here. You listen to me speak and we got to spend some time together. And when you mentioned you had a podcast, I was thrilled. So yeah, I'm pumped to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here. And, I know that everybody who comes on here is giving their time, and it's just about giving our messages. And I love putting amazing people in front of my audience. So really happy you're here. Well, let me ask you, because I love to kind of start with something from the inception of your business. Drew, when was that moment? When is one of the moments, at least in your life, when you said, oh my gosh, I'm going to do leadership. I'm going to be a leadership consultant and coach?
Yeah. So I can think of two really good ones. The first one, I was leaving work. I was at Bell Helicopter at the time. I was leading research for the Rotors team. And a friend of mine was walking with me and I made some side comment, just a random side comment. And he goes, man, you always have such amazing stuff to say. And I was like taken aback because he's a friend, right? Like I was like, oh, well, and I've always mentored the younger guys at work and that type of thing. So I was like, well, maybe I should be serious about this. And so that was like the moment that I was like, oh, I need to do this. And then I grew up in church. And so I've had loads of folks that have mentored me from youth group and then in college. And I figure I've been a success despite my best efforts. And so the best thing I can do is pass that back to the next generation and help other folks get a leg up.
Yeah, it's a legacy to leave, and I really believe that leadership is not a title. It's a way of being in the world. It's not a title, right? And most people who become leaders let's say they're promoted to leadership positions, have absolutely no experience leading, right?
Yeah. And a lot of times we get promoted. I was certainly promoted this way because we're darn good at what we did, right?
Exactly.
Peter Drucker is a really great management author. He said that one of his bosses scolded him one day and said, I thought you were a smart guy. And he said, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you keep wanting to do that last job that you were so good at, but I hired you for this job. And for me, I had a similar moment. I had about 10 people that were directly reported to me. Right? I had hired some of them. I certainly did the performance reviews, all that. And I realized that I was solving all their problems because that's what I used to do. I was an individual contributor and I solved problems. But as a lead, you don't solve problems. You encourage them to solve problems. You coach them through solving problems. And so it wasn't until I figured that out. I was a bottleneck for 10 people. I used to say multitasking is me making you wait while I go figure something out. And I was the bottleneck. And so
you were the hand holder.
Yeah. And so it was an emotional switch. And then what you find when I had about 20 employees, direct reports, I realized I feel worthless about twice a day because my team is doing their job and I'm just here to collect their feedback and then figure out how that affects the schedule and then resource them. But if you're doing your job right as a leader, the part of you that was a really great doer should feel worthless about twice a day.
I love that. We should feel worthless about twice a day. That's great. That's fantastic. And my listeners are usually aspiring business owners, or they own a business and are growing it, generally in the first few years of business, or they're just thinking about it and wanting to take the leap. And one thing that I learned too late, Drew, is that when you are a solopreneur or a business owner with very few full-time employees, if any, guess what? You absolutely must delegate and must have a team. Same is true in any kind of business. The businesses you're talking about, 3 million to 10 million, obviously have a number of employees. And it's so essential to have someone who can coordinate, who can resource, who can make sure everything flows instead of doing the work for people.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yes, I love crazy. Crazy,
Okay, so
crazy, my middle name.
I've done this for years, and I just kind of did it privately. I didn't think anybody else did this. Later, I've discovered that most of the successful folks out there that have like achieved it do this. All right, so we're going to start at the end. That's what strategy means. Strategy means you go to the end and then you work backwards, right? So at the end, you're going to have 30, 40, 50, 100 people working for you, right? And at that
Mhm.
point, your day is going to look like this. You're going to show up and you're going to have a stand-up meeting or a board meeting or a team meeting, whatever you want to call it, leads meeting, and you're going to look at the HR department, the logistics department, the supply chain, the operations, the engineering, the HR, the legal department. And you're going to say, what do I need to know? And then they're going to say, this is what you need to know. And this is what our plan is to fix that. And you're going to say, great, or no. And you're going to coach them and you're going to say, no, I need you to come to me with solutions, not the other way around. All right. That's at the end. So as solopreneurs, the problem is that we think that we come to work like a doer, which means we don't have a boss. So we want to come to work and do something. One day we're going to be the boss. And we're going to lead a team and not do anything. So what I advise people to do this, I call it productive schizophrenia, is I'll talk to myself in the mirror. I don't need a mirror anymore because I've done it for so long. And I'll ask coder Drew, hey, what's the deal? What are your problems? What are you working on? What's the solution? I'll ask HR Drew, what do I need to say? How do I need to encourage the team? Right. So when I have those private meetings with myself, which one day I'll be able to take myself out and I'll be able to put in Sarah or George
Mhm.
or Sam.
Yeah.
So I have the same conversation I would with an employee with myself. And then I figure out which of those employees, which of the Drews I need to fire first. And then I go, so when I was at Lockheed, I had a big team at Lockheed Martin. I was a chief engineer there. I actually hired a guy named Michael, and I told him Monday from 8 to 10, I'm your boss, and I'm going to tell you everything we need to do this week and all the metrics that matter. The rest of the week, you're my boss. So I hired a guy I paid him about half of what I was getting paid at the time, I think, to be my boss, because I know I'm a really great doer and I'm a really great strategist. I'm a pretty poor manager of my time. So again, that it's kind of a version of productive schizophrenia where I know where I'm good at, I know where I'm bad at. And so I take on a role like I'm playing a play, like a Shakespeare play, and I play the person that I play the person the company would need from me. And as soon as I can, I hire somebody to play those roles for me. And so in this case, Michael was one of the earliest hires. I advise all solopreneur entrepreneurs, small teams, get a virtual assistant or a real assistant, because your life, your day-to-day life and your business life are really the same. They're all meshed together. It's not clean like it is in corporate world. And so if you're sitting there thinking about the kids or thinking about figuring out marketing or picking up dry cleaning or scheduling dinner with your spouse, those are all things that a virtual assistant can do for you. And
Well, I'm going to pause. I'm going to be a little, I'm going to take issue with that. Depends on the virtual assistant for sure.
oh yeah,
Because what I found with mine is that I had to be the one to develop the strategy and give
yeah,
them exactly what they're to do. Monday, we promote this. Tuesday, we do this. Wednesday, you look for speaking engagements, blah, blah, blah. And all of that, I had to work all of that out for them. And so what I would say to everyone listening is yes, get a VA. But first, before you get a VA, you need a kick-ass, badass coach, right? Who's going to
yeah.
tell you what not to spend your time on. Because what I've found is most business owners are doing stuff that's effectively what we used to call busy work in school, you know?
It's
Busy
because it
work.
feels good. It feels busy work feels
Right.
like
It
work.
feels good. It's like, oh, I don't have to make the sales call, right? Because I'm going to revise the website. Oh, no, 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 no. You have got to be doing at least 3 revenue generating activities every day. This is what I preach to my crowd, and I have a way that we track them. And they can't be when you need cash, like you need cash for your business. And if you want to stay in business, you're going to need cash for your business. You don't choose the long-term strategies at the beginning. You choose the
Yes.
short-term strategies, right? And you can't be doing busy work. I don't even care. You know what, Drew? They don't even have to have a website. I'll say to my client, you don't need a website. You can just do a Facebook business page. You can do a Google My Business. That's enough. Just get going. Somebody is not going to make their buying decision. Well, maybe 3% might make a buying decision or be greatly influenced by your website. But really, these days, your website is a brochure, and you got to get the people there.
Yeah.
You
Actually,
got to get
so
the people there.
a quick tip on that. I have a buddy, he and I trade services.
Yeah.
He does cybersecurity. I do leadership
Uh-huh.
coaching. We meet together Monday for 4 hours and we do
Mhm.
call sessions. So I call my lead, I practice my scripts with him. I call my leads. He practices his scripts with me. He calls his leads. If we have a
Mhm.
lead that overlaps really well, we'll do the call for or the email for each other. But if you don't, so if you're a solopreneur and you don't have a sales department because you're the sales department, find a buddy who also needs a sales department and then hold each other accountable. You can keep scores like we have a whiteboard. You can like tick down like who gets the meeting
That's a
first and
great idea, Drew.
gamify it. It's super fun. Yeah.
I love that. We have in my Make It Happen mastermind, we have get her done sessions, not
Okay.
get it done, but get her done.
Get her done,
We have
America with
get
an
her done
M.
sessions, and anyone can call one, but it has to be outside of normal working hours, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we'll have sometimes that we'll say, okay, for 2 hours, what we're going to do is create speaking engagements. So that obviously needs to be during the day. But when there's other stuff that's not getting done that has to get done, we'll call it at night or on a Saturday or a Sunday. And then folks come in and just do their thing. But you can see that other people are working. You can be on Zoom or you can just do it by text. We do both. We need that kind of accountability. And I love how you're practicing first with each other, because then you're not practicing on a real prospect.
Well, and you write a sales script, right? And it's the first time you've used it. And so you're like, I got this, I got it in my head. I wrote it. We're good. No, you got to run that thing again, like you're on a stage. You got to run those lines with your buddy. And he's like, no, that doesn't fit or too long. Like you'll write like 2 sentences and you're like, oh, these are beautiful. And you say them and you're like, oh, that's way too long. Yeah. Having somebody to practice with is huge.
That's great. And then actually supporting each other in making those sales calls and keeping a tally is really fun. I love that. That's a fantastic idea, because otherwise it can feel very much like you're on your own. And the sales calls are very, for most people, sales calls are those things that have to be done, but they don't really enjoy them that much. Right.
One of the things I challenge, and I run into this myself. You run the line so many times, and then sometimes you're like, well, I mean, maybe you kind of psych yourself out. This person doesn't want the service. Are you providing a real service? The answer is yes. That's why you're doing it, because the world needs what you're doing, right? So call them up and be like, listen, I'm offering them a chance to get unstuck. I'm offering them a chance to run their team better. I'm offering a chance to redo their culture in 90 days. Like, believe in your stuff. Whatever it is that you're
Clear
selling.
about the result.
Yeah. And I guarantee you people need it. So you're doing them a favor. And sometimes we do self-talk and we're like, well, I mean, I don't know if they want to buy from me. They do. If you need an excuse, look at me right in the eye. They do need your stuff. Okay. Go make that sale.
Or they're going to go make a crappy buying decision and get something that doesn't provide results. Sales is service. I always preach this. It's service. And what you're saying is so spot on, Drew, because when you're clear, oh, yes, I am going to help them get rid of that mindset. I'm speaking for myself. Get rid of that mindset crap that's holding them back and soar into 6 figures and more, because 86.3% of business owners do not get there. I'm going to do that with this person, and they need it because they want to travel. They want to retire their spouse. They want to see the world. They want to spend more time with their grandkids or their kids. They want to retire early. They want this, they want that. They want to start a nonprofit. And when we're clear about what is the win for them, it becomes very easy to go in and offer what we have, knowing that we're serving with it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I believe down to the bottom of my toes is that we were all put on this earth with a special spark, and the rest of us are suffering because you haven't developed your spark. And that's what I do with leadership. That's the reason for me, it's leadership. I used to run pretty big organizations, large numbers. I had 31 patents. I actually did pretty well on the do it side of things.
Yeah.
But I realized leadership is for me, it's that leverage point. If I can make that leader more mature, then all of the people that they're going to serve. So I have a limited time. I'm a limited person. I can do one touch that'll serve 1 million or 100 people. And then those will serve another 100, right? Well, you are the same, even if you're not quite there yet. Remember, I tell this to my daughter all the time. She's 10. She rolls her eyes. I can't do my back handspring. yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, but soon. And if you keep working at it, way sooner than you think. And we all need your spark. That's why you're here. And so, just we need you. So get out there and sell.
And the great thing is when you get your spark going, right, then you can help ignite others. And when we ignite others, we create that huge ripple effect. Whereas if we do it for someone, we only create an impact for one person maybe and a few people around them. But when we train and delegate and bring up to speed and empower a group, like you say, we've leveraged, because they're going to impact their group that they're leading. So very important. Drew, I want us also to talk about not being a cheap ass, okay? That's for everybody. Not being a cheap ass. And what I mean by that is when you're in business, I know at the beginning you're saying, oh my gosh, I don't have any money. I don't have this. I don't have that. You're focused on a lot of scarcity. However, there are certain non-negotiables in a team that you need. So I thought, Drew, we could have a little fun just throwing out a few of those because you got to build, today we're talking about building a team you can trust. Stop saying there's no good help out there. Stop, because there is, but you've got to know what you need. And then you've got to know how to train them and have a systems manual that assists with that, or create one if you don't have one. So I would say, first of all, Drew, let's have some fun. We can debate back and forth. Like, who do people most need? First thing I would say, like absolutely non-negotiable, is an incredible tax person. Now, notice I didn't say accountant. I said tax person because my tax person is not an accountant, but he's done taxes for 25 years, never had anyone audited because he's so painstakingly careful. So basically, find yourself an incredible tax person who knows small business tax law, who understands the deductions that you need to be taking, who understands depreciation and all the other stuff you've got to know, who understands the extra bonuses you can get for having an electric vehicle or whatever. So what do you think, Drew? Would you agree with me there?
Yeah, because if you try to claim something that's the wrong tax deduction, or you try to overclaim it, Uncle Sam is more than happy to charge you 20%, 30%, take away your business, put you in jail. The best mafia that exists is the tax mafia. So yeah, definitely. And we're in here to serve our clients, right? To serve our ideal clients. But we chose to do that through our own businesses because we know about the tax benefits, and there's a lot of them if you get them right. So yes, I love that. And I'm going to scale it back just this tiny bit. A bookkeeper, and could be that you could perhaps, do that yourself using Quicken, et cetera, at the beginning. You could, but the tax piece, no, absolutely not. Agreed.
But, it could be a bookkeeper / tax person all in one, Yes, you got to know what's going on in your books. I want to say that, you all, I can't tell you the number of people I coach. They're making great money. It's all going through their fingers because they don't know what's going on in their books.
Yep.
So even if you have a tax person and a bookkeeper, you got to be keeping tabs on that.
So then the next one I would say is now I'm assuming that because you're the individual solo entrepreneur, I'm sure that you're amazing at what you do, right? The thing for me, it's I actually like group coaching is my favorite thing.
I love group coaching too. Yeah, that's my Make It Happen mastermind. Yeah.
I like the dynamics of the group. Yeah. Some people they're like, I like one-on-one and I like speaking, but I don't like groups. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Put me in a 10-person group. Actually 10 people groups are my like feeder groups, right? So I have a really fun if you're a startup that's just been funded, I have one that's going right now that's I'm having a lot of fun with. Okay.
Who do they need next?
Who do they need next? I think you need a salesperson. Now, as the owner, that's you, right? That 100%, because you got to be making the calls and you got to be like going to networking events and letting people know that your service exists. Oftentimes I'll tell people, I'll be like, what do you think about Sam down at the Quickie Stop, at the 7-Eleven down the way? And folks will say, who's Sam? I'm like, exactly. you don't even know there is a Sam, but Sam needs you to know who he is. Otherwise you're not going to see him. So depending on how your business works, you can do social media, but ultimately you need somebody that knows how to get your name out there and
Mhm.
is, I think ultimately you for the as the business owner, as the solopreneur, as the small business, you're closing 90% of the sales. But you
Exactly. I have never found anybody who could sell me the way I can sell me, right? Because we know our work inside and out. So I'm gonna say yes, I agree that the sales training has to be there. Um, However, I think I would say, Drew, the next person you need is a badass coach. You've got to
ah
have a coach. Now, if you choose wisely and you choose someone who really knows how to build a whatever type of business you're trying to do. So let me say, my sweet spot is working with those solopreneurs who want to have a small team, right? And they may
yep.
scale to multiple six figures, maybe even beyond to seven figures, but they want to keep their team small. Whereas yours is working with larger teams, it's just going to be different.
I got
Um,
to feed minimum of 10 people, right? Like a
yeah,
3 million organization is, it's probably 15 people. It's 3 million really. So when I'm thinking of sales, I got to feed 15 people. But
yeah.
no, you're right. On the 2 to 3 people, yeah, a coach is because somebody to help you keep focused, set priorities, make sure that you're tracking the right metrics. Somebody call you out.
And in
I
that larger company, it would be a kick-ass marketer, right? But
Yeah,
you can find a coach who has marketing expertise. I'm a creative marketing expert in small business. That's what I do, Drew. I don't know if you knew that, but that's like most of my things that I talk about are that, though I do foray into mindset because I know that unless people get the mindset right, they'll never do the marketing strategies, right? So sometimes I'll speak on that. But
when
yeah,
when
depending
I
on the
talk
size of the company, it may be a coach who could serve this. It might be a marketing director who would serve this need for you.
Yeah, and when I say like that first salesperson, you need you call them a call setter, or sometimes somebody say the
Mhm.
inside sales guy. So I'm not traveling to the company. I'm just calling all the leads. I'm enriching
Mhm.
all the leads. I'm running the first half of your CRM, right? So I'm bumping and setting for your spike, right? So I'm just setting you up so that because the doer is going to do is going to be the
Like an
final close.
appointment setter.
But my grandpa used to say to me, he's a veterinarian. He used to say, "Now, Drew, you got to tell them 4 times that their dog needs a rabies shot before they come and ask you if you've ever heard of a rabies shot."
Oh my
And
God.
so the idea there is there's a lot of work that there's a lot of education work of, oh, what I need this service. Oh, Dr. Barnsley, the right person for this service.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I should call Dr. Barnsley. Those three can be done with either a marketing funnel or with a setter, like a sales setter.
Yeah. Yes. And they can be automated. They can largely be automated. Um, so many different ways you can do it. And if you're speaking, you can just bring those people in. You can set the appointments right then. I love to have a clipboard if I'm speaking in person and just have times ready and just get them right on there, right then and there. So I don't have to try to track them down. And all I need to do is remind them. But the point is, you all, whatever you're doing, too, another very important point kind of hidden in here is you've got to be having one-on-one meetings because at the stage of business of the people I serve, most of the people who enroll are going to be in a one-on-one meeting. Now, they may have seen you speak, they may have done this, they may have read your blogs, they may have watched, your show, whatever. But when they have that one-on-one meeting with you, the enrollment conversation, then that's where you're going to have the sale, you know. So that's got to be where everything's heading at the beginning, you all, and
They are
ongoingly.
buying you. They are buying you, not your service. Now they need your
Yep.
service, right? And they need the results and the transformation you're going to give them, but they're buying you because there's a lot of people that are offering mindset, sales, marketing, but they're
Yeah,
buying Dr. Barnsley. They're buying Drew Sutton, right? That's why, yeah, you have to be in those conversations.
they're buying the relationship really,
Yeah.
and relationship is the most important thing, and that's why you know selling one-on-one, I really actually enjoy it because I get to go so deep with someone. And probably the questions that I ask them, Drew, a lot of times people look at me and nobody's ever asked me that. What do I want my experience of life to be while I have my business? I've never thought about it. I ask some pretty darn deep questions. So we've agreed, first of all, tax keeper, bookkeeper.
Yeah.
We've agreed, or tax person, bookkeeper. We've agreed marketing director or coach with extensive marketing experience who can tell you what to avoid and what to do,
Yep.
right? Especially at the beginning, there's so many ways you can be marketing for free. I always get upset when I hear people say, oh, yeah, they've got me doing Facebook ads. It's not doing anything for me. You're at that wrong stage of your business to be doing Facebook ads. What moron told you to do that? You know?
Hmm.
Anyway, I could
Yeah.
go on a rant here. So, Drew, who do we think next? Who's next? Who do we need next?
I'm going to call him a technician.
Ah,
Um,
yes,
so
IT geek.
yeah, so it's somebody that can
Yep.
make the tech that's going to enable your company to work.
Yes.
Your CRM, you gotta get DMARC and SPF and DKIM working on. Otherwise, people don't receive your emails. It's all this really nerdy stuff. I used to. One of my first clients was a MSP or an IT guy, and my second client was a cybersecurity guy. And the analogy that I thought was super powerful is you go to Disneyland and you get on the ride, and it's seamless, right? It's a magical experience. But if you've ever looked at the behind the scenes of Disney, every one of those rides is hundreds of thousands of working parts.
Mhm.
So the smoother the top line is, the better the puppets behave, the more tech is needed behind. And so as you look at your service, your product or service, what level of service are your clients expecting? That's the level of tech that you need behind, making all of the little puppets, all little mannequins wiggle just right to keep the magic up.
And a VA may be able to do some of this. One of my VAs does do some updates to my website. So a VA may be able to do some of this.
Yep.
They may be able to do more. Maybe they can do reels for you, shorts for video, video shorts for YouTube or Facebook. So sometimes a VA can do this, and certainly if you get a VA that's focused in that area, they'll be able to do it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. You got to have your techie person, and it shouldn't just be Uncle Rufus who helps you put your computer in.
So I used my very first job in high school. I worked trim carpentry, so home improvement type stuff. Like we built houses. We put I have the crown molding, and then you have the baseboards, right? And my boss said to me, he said, "Never do your own house." And I said, "Why not? I mean, we're the best in the business, right?" He's like, "We are the best, but if you do your own house, every hour you spend doing your own house, you're not making twice the money doing somebody else's house.
Else.
So go do somebody else's house and pay somebody that you like to go do your house." I was like,
Nice.
that's a super. So when it comes to your tech guy and your marketing person and your sales setter and your planner or like your schedule manager of sorts, if you're doing that stuff, if you would pay them $13, $15, $20 an hour to do that stuff, and you're doing it, then you're saying your time is only worth $20 an hour.
Exactly.
You can't build a multi-million-dollar business on $20 an hour work.
You got to understand the value of your hour. And that is, it's not what you make. So let's say you charge 409. Let's make it easy. You charge 450 an hour, right? That is not what you're making an hour in small business. You're making about a third of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because for every hour that you're delivering, the other 2 hours are spent on operations, customer service, whatever, all the things that have to be done. Coordinating with the tech people, getting the things together for the taxes for the tax person.
I just spent 2 hours. I went to a 1 hour networking lunch, which I had to drive 30 minutes for. That group does produce for me, so it's worth it. But that's 2 hours every other Friday. So we'll just call it 1 hour a week. And then plus we'll just call it 1 hour a week that I'm not getting paid.
Exactly.
So I can make $4.50 an hour. Yeah.
Well, you're getting paid, but it's within your 1 hour that you work with that group, right? At X amount of money.
Yep.
And divide it by 3. Divide your hourly rate by 3, and that gives you a good idea of what you're really making per hour.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true.
And if you're doing, say, speaking and you're customizing, and it takes you 20 hours to customize, you got to put all that in there too. So maybe you're making a $5,000 keynote honorarium, but you've got to take out all the time you travel to the conference, all the time you're there, all the actual time you're presenting, all the time you're networking, all the time that you spent customizing prior to going there. And your follow-up.
And when you're there, you're going to go to the bar because somebody that's a good client,
Exactly.
you're going to buy them a drink. They're going to buy you a drink. It's going to happen both
Exactly.
nights. You're up till 4 in the morning. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Drew, yeah, absolutely. And people don't think about that. They think, well, I'm making so much per hour. No, no, no. You're not always being paid.
So,
It's the billables.
so let me flip the script here a little bit. I was
Yeah.
just another client of mine. He has an Etsy business. He makes wedding glasses for he's like, I think I need somebody because he has a big laser that he cuts things with.
Hmm.
He's like, I think I need to hire somebody, but I don't know if I can afford them. And I looked at him and I said, listen, if you can't afford to hire somebody to run your laser, you
Hmm.
can't afford your business. Because if somebody else is not doing it, that means you're doing it. And if you can't afford to pay somebody else, then you're making that labor rate. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
so if
And
you
those
say
of
I
you
can't
who are
afford these
really
people to
just starting out and you're like, oh my God, but I have nothing. Well, there are grants out there. You
yeah.
know, there are home equity lines of credit that you could just get to start out. They're business grants, they're business credit cards, they're all sorts of ways. I mean, for goodness sakes, there's PayPal. There are so many ways that you could just finance getting that. And I'll tell you, Drew, and everybody listening, I would really want you to hear this. I did not hire a VA until I was in the second decade of my business. All right. And guess when I got into six figures and beyond? It was in that second decade. Yeah. Why? Because there just wasn't enough time, energy, or anything else, expertise to get all the stuff done. So we got to have this team. Well, let's mention a few more, and then we want to have a giveaway. And I want to make sure we get that in before we finish, Drew. But this is such a wonderful
Yeah.
discussion. Insurance person, super important. You got to have your insurance
Mm.
person, your insurance policies, your business insurance, everything. Have the right insurance person. Who else? Let's just throw some in. Who else do you need on
At
your
some
team?
point, you need counsel. Now, they're not going to be on your team. You're going to hire them, but you need all your contracts put together. And then
Legal counsel.
as you get into larger contracts, you need more and more. Especially if you're hiring subcontractors. Now, quick
Yep.
note on counsel: when a lawyer says words that sound like English words, they are not English words. They are special words that mean different things to a lawyer. Shall and will are very, very,
Mhm,
very different words.
mhm.
So as much as it pains me to say it, honestly, and I'm a fairly sharp person, you need counsel because the words you think you're reading don't mean the same thing to the counsel.
Exactly. And you know what? One good way to get it, you all, a cheap way, if you're just starting out, is Legal Shield. And I happen to be an associate. I'll just mention that. It
There you
saved
go.
me over $50,000 in the last 10 years. Just having Legal Shield, I just call them up. I can send in a certain number of pages per month. They can, of contracts, etc. They have a really wonderful, if you're a home-based business, they have a super reasonable home-based business rider that gives you all sorts of stuff, including IRS audit protection if you ever
There
get
we
on.
go.
And
So
if
can I
you have
tell?
employees, it goes up in price, obviously. But that's one thing, you all, that you could do. I love it. So insurance, legal counsel. I would add, you need somebody. You need a really amazing house cleaner and car mechanic. All right.
Yeah.
You need to know where these people are. And when you need something done, you need to have them come in. And maybe you can only afford, you know, maybe you hate dusting. This is from my past, Drew. I hate dusting. So when I was just starting my business, guess what? I would do the rest of the cleaning, but I would hire the dusting done because
Yeah.
otherwise it just took my time and energy thinking about it. And I knew it just always made me feel bad thinking I hadn't done it. But even if you just have somebody come in once a month, you all, to do that cleaning, or somebody to come in and do your laundry, just think of the hours you free up for your business where you can actually be charging somebody for your zone of genius,
Yeah.
not for menial work.
Well, and that's why I talked about sales so early
Yeah.
in the acquisition process, because when you start making 450 an hour and you can fill up your week with 450 an hour, then buying a duster, car detailer is actually a big one for me because
Oh, yeah.
when you drive up to somebody's house, like, or their place of business, and you drive up, let's say, just say you have a Camry because you're starting out, right? You drive up in your Camry and it's full of, just the little
Crap.
knickknacks that kids, right? The client looks at you and is like, they'll never say anything. And you'll look at it, you're like, oh, it's no big deal. But if you look at somebody else's messy car, I guarantee You have the emotion, whether you articulate it.
Mhm.
So yeah, a car detailer, externally and internally,
Mhm.
that's worth it.
It's tough. It's definitely worth it, and especially if you're doing something like you're a real estate broker and you're taking
Oh yeah.
people around in your car. Oh my God, your car has got to look good. It's not gonna go over
I,
having pacifiers thrown everywhere and
I don't know the last
old
time you took a
decrepit
dirty
French fries from McDonald's.
I took a dirty Uber my last trip. I just like Ubered it. It was late at night. I got this Uber.
Yeah,
I crawled in the back and they had put
Uber.
energy into cleaning, but it was not sufficient energy, right? Like that was
Mm,
not the baseline of the car. And
mm.
yeah, they did not get 5 stars.
There you go. I mean, it's important. We expect it. So, a couple of others that you might think about. Let's see. What are some others that they should think about? Some other team members.
Again, rental space. I mean, this is called rental, right? This is not full-time team members, but good videography, which is a little different than
Yep.
marketing, right? But like you and I, we both speak, right? And we go in, we do workshops for folks, we
Hmm.
do coaching for folks. Having that picture with a bunch of really interested professional heads pointed at me as
Yes.
I'm holding a mic, that is worth its weight in gold, right? I mean,
It's
that's
more
worth it.
powerful than saying Drew's an amazing speaker.
Yeah, it really is. I
It
mean,
is.
so I have an event coming up in January here locally in Lexington, Kentucky. And yeah, I'm hiring a videography crew to come in, like little guys in black shirts
Love
running
it.
around doing their thing. You do it at a wedding. Why? Because it's a special moment that needs recording.
Yep.
Well, when you're doing, I have folks on my podcast and I always ask them for B reel and almost
Mhm.
nobody has it. I'm like, how
Yeah.
do you expect me to bring the sizzle to talk about your barbershop or whatever? I do. It's like I do it for local businesses. It's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah.
But no, like you need that kind of commercial be real. That nothing tells a story better than be real.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also say don't be obnoxious with it because recently,
Oh yeah,
I
okay.
want to be clear. Recently, I had a meeting with someone, and not only were they 8 minutes late, Drew, which did not endear me to them because, we had mutually met at this networking thing and agreed, and I had a hard stop 20 minutes later, 30 minutes.
Hmm.
I had left 30 minutes for this meeting, and I'm sitting there waiting, and the person had their sizzle reel going on. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, what a big ego this person has. And it ended up being the truth, actually, Drew.
Ah, yeah, 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 yeah.
It ended up being the truth. I don't need to tell any more about that story, but let's just say I'm not going to be on her podcast and she's not going to be on mine because I don't do that. I don't like it. I believe in everybody matters, everybody's important. I have friends in every station of life, every country, every race, and I believe that we all matter. Well, listen, God, this has gone fast, Drew. We've
Indeed,
got to
yeah.
finish up. So you all, I have to tell you, here's the exciting thing. Woo woo woo, who's ready? Woo! The studio audience goes wild. Yeah. Anyway, wasn't that great? Sound
That was
effects.
good.
Yeah. So we have the freebie vault on Bold Badass Business. And you can go in and there are thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts there. There are e-courses, video courses, e-books, templates, special sessions you can have. There are discounts on some incredible software that is offered for business owners, etc. Now be sure and look at our Bold Badass Business sponsors at the top. They are our featured sponsors at the top. And then you can also scroll down and find some of the other guests and their gifts. Drew, tell us in just one quick sentence, what are you contributing as a gift for everybody in the freebie vault? Just real quickly.
Yeah. So we're doing a 30-minute sit down session with me. It'll be a virtual session, and we're going to work on your culture. Peter Drucker says culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you have a plan, you have a strategy, but if your people and the way that your inner workings of your culture works doesn't support that strategy, you're going to find yourself midway across and have it crash down on you. So that's what I'm here to help you do.
So the culture of your business, getting it right, setting it up right, setting it to be congruent with who you are and with your brand. So
Mhm.
important, and with who you serve, your target audience. So I love that. And you all, that will be available. Grab your pen here at bit.ly/free from Dr. B, which is DRB. Let me say it again, bit.ly/ bit.ly/free from Dr. B, DRB. Just go on in there, help yourselves, everybody. Share the freebie vault if you'd like to. It's all there to help your life and your business be better. So, Drew, you've given us so much to think about, and so many ways that we need to get things right so we don't suffer down the road in business. I really appreciate this. Is like a preventative session here. I hope you all listened. I hope you walk the dog another round and listen again. Okay, seriously, because you need to get this stuff in place. Learn from our mistakes, learn from our experience, and don't let it be you who isn't able to reach 100K and beyond because you're a cheap ass, right? Maybe that's not the best way to end this, but if you're listening, you all, I know you're a bold badass, even if you don't feel like one. And don't be a cheap ass, for real. Be a bold badass. Drew, thank you for coming. Everyone, I'll see you back next week, next Friday at 4:30 p.m. And boy, do we have an awesome guest for you. Thanks again, Drew.